Good morning. It is a delight to be at the 2016 conference for the National Association of Botany Students, OAU chapter. I would like to first and foremost apologize for not being able to be present physically when your president, Mr. David Adetula, called to extend the invitation to speak at this conference. I had indicated that I'll be away for the month of February. But that nonetheless, we would try and explore other options. And since we're in the technology age, look at how we can deploy technology to ensure that I'm able to participate in this conference, even though I'm not physically present. So again, thank you to the president of the association and the planning committee for extending this invitation to me to speak at your conference this morning. I have been asked to speak on the entrepreneurship utilization of potent botany. And I kid you not, when I saw the theme or the title, I thought to myself, my goodness, these are very, very big words that we have here. So what I'll try to do is distill this down to simpler language that I can understand and I can also communicate to you. Before I start, I would like to put forth a disclaimer. When David said he would like me to speak at this conference, I said to him, you do realize I'm not a botanist. I actually graduated from this great university, Great Ife, back in 1989. And I actually graduated from the Faculty of Technology with a degree in computer science and economics. So you can see that what I studied has absolutely nothing to do with what we're going to talk about today. But that's the beauty of it all, and that's essentially what David alluded to when he extended the invitation. Now, I'm going to spend the next few minutes just sharing my own story, because I believe in sharing my own story. It becomes more practical and more real than trying to hypothesize what I haven't tried out. So that is essentially the direction I'm going to take over the next few minutes. Now, I'll start off by saying, okay, I'm talking here with the botany student or students studying botany at this great university. I think there's some questions, fundamental questions that need to be asked. Why did you choose to study botany? I suspect that for some, the reason why they're studying botany is because they're using botany as a stepping stone to getting into medical school. Some people probably ended up studying botany because their first choice, was not available to them. So in their own words, this is what OAU gave me, or this is what JAMB gave me, which essentially ties into the first reason that I stated above. And then you have some people that, genuinely wanted to study botany because they wanted to perhaps work for, one of the prestigious research institutes here in Nigeria or abroad, for example, NIHOT here in Nigeria. And then you have some other people that just decided, what, I can see, booming potential in how we can deploy plants and whatnot in our landscape here. I want to go ahead and open up this big, beautiful botanical garden, that people can come and relax and people can come and buy their flowers. That might have been a reason for some people. And some others might have just decided that, I'm studying this because I really want to pursue the track of, being a researcher in this field. But whatever your reasons were for actually pursuing this particular field of study, I say make the most out of it. And that really is what counts at the end of the day. So the very first thing, within the theme had to do with entrepreneurship. And one thing that I would highlight here when we talk about entrepreneurship is it's something that you need to keep in mind. For some of you, you'll be graduating very soon, and I'm sure you're fully aware of the employment situation in Nigeria. And it's a very, very unfortunate situation where jobs aren't guaranteed. Jobs haven't even been guaranteed in, the last, I don't know how many years or decades. But, there are no jobs necessarily guaranteed when you graduate from university. So you have to look at, other options. that are available. And one of those options has to do with, perhaps pursuing the entrepreneurship track. And before I go any further to talk about, what the starting point is for entrepreneurship, I'm going to conduct a quiz since we're in an academic environment. I love testing students. I'm going to throw out a test here, but just keep calm. And hopefully the presentation is being projected as I'm speaking. So what you should see here is a basket, and it should be a very familiar basket to many of you here. In fact, I'm sure some of you actually have this type of basket or some similar types of baskets in your homes or in your hostels. So the first question is, what is this basket made from? And then the second question is, and actually, let me just pause for a moment and ask, okay, can anybody tell me what this basket is made from? So you tell me what the generic name is, and then you also tell me what the botanical name is. And there are prizes to be won for answering these questions correctly. So I'll give 3 seconds for somebody to answer this question, and David is going to take down the name of the person that answers the question correctly, because he should have the answers with him. And then the next question is, where is this particular plant tree found? Where is its dominant area? Where do you find it the most? So pause for 2 seconds. Somebody answers that question. And then the third question has to do with, does it grow wild or is it cultivated? And yes, so does it grow wild or is it cultivated? So I'm going to pause for 2 seconds while we take answers from the floor. All right, so we've completed that quiz, and hopefully we have people that have answered those questions correctly, and you would get your prizes at the end of this presentation. But that's the starting point. I think the starting point for entrepreneurship, at least in my opinion, has to do with asking questions, being inquisitive, seeing things and not just glancing over them, but asking questions. And from there, based on the answers that you get, you can then start deciding which direction you want to take things based on the answers that you've received. So I'll now tie that back into the journey that I have taken. I work with the plant, and hopefully it's displayed on the screen. You would see, several boats here that are hemmed in by this dense green foliage on the water. And for those of you who are familiar with Lagos, Badagry, the Lagos island, Badagry area, Ekpe, Ikorodu, these are waters in these areas have been infested by this invasive aquatic weed. And the invasive aquatic weed that we're seeing in this picture is actually water hyacinth, also known as Iconia crasseps. We have 4 types of invasive aquatic weeds in Nigeria, but I have, at this point in time, zeroed in on actually 2. But for the purpose of this presentation, I'll be talking about 1, which is the water hyacinth. Now, when I saw this image, this picture was taken for me in the Bioku area of Ikorodu. But there was a similar image around that in Lagos as I was going over the Third Mainland Bridge. And similar situation, both hemmed in by, water hyacinth. And the question that I asked was, my goodness, what we're looking at here is essentially a picture of despair, where the transporter, the person who's using his boat to transport or using his boat to go fishing, can't do so because the waterways has been obstructed by this particular weed. So that then made me start asking questions in regards to, okay, so what is this weed useful for, and what can be done with this weed to clear, first and foremost, the waterways, and also give people an incentive to clear the waterways. So looking at both an environmental aspect as well as an economic aspect towards the recovery and utilization of the water hyacinth. So that sent me down on a track that, in fact, more or less, sparked my own idea. And I started doing research in regards to trying to understand the magnitude of the problem in Nigeria. I looked online and was able to find some information from a report that had been published by the Nigerian Institute of Freshwater Fisheries and Research, and found out that indeed it was a big problem in Nigeria, and that at least 20 states had the problem of this water hyacinth infestation, as well as some of the other invasive aquatic weeds. And for me, I saw a glaring opportunity in Nigeria to transform water hyacinth, which is essentially a renewable resource. It's one of the fastest reproducing weeds, into an economic advantage through the empowerment of communities and the creation of handcrafted accessories. I personally have an interest in things that are locally made and things that have this ethnic touch to them. So it wasn't hard for me to say this is the track that I want to go down because it was something I was passionate about, and I also thought that it was something that the communities would be able to grasp quite easily. The other use options for water hyacinth are definitely very significant, but I felt that those other use options would require a degree of technical understanding, as well as capital requirements. So if you want to generate biogas, there's going to be some capital requirements, as well as fabrication of the digesters that you're going to use to facilitate the breaking down or the decomposition of the water hyacinth, and so on and so forth. So I opted for the handicrafts option and started looking at how we could engage communities in transforming their adversity into prosperity. And that has essentially taken me to different parts of the country. I've been in the Niger Delta, training communities on how to transform this. And it is quite interesting because, in most of the communities, if not all that we've been to, nobody has ever seen an economic advantage of water hyacinth. In fact, if you hear the names that have been given to water hyacinth, they're not necessarily positive. And that's where we come in and say, you know what, we're going to change the name or the implication of the name of this plant into something positive, and it will represent something positive for you. So what we've done is essentially take the water hyacinth and say that, you know what, we're going to look at it through a different set of lenses. We're going to look at water hyacinth not being, this devastating. It is a devastating problem, but we're turning that around through our use option here and saying that, water hyacinth is actually very durable. It's actually very, the fiber is quite tough. So it is a durable fiber, and that's what makes it very suitable for handcrafts. It's also very valuable. I mean, anyone who sees a lamp, for example, and you can see the lamp, hopefully it's being projected on the screen. This lamp is made from water hyacinth and recycled bottles. So we are really preaching the message of waste recovery and utilization here. So, and that's the beauty of this story, because when people see the products and you say this is made from water hyacinth, the first reaction is it that thing that grows on the water? And we're like, yes, it is the thing that grows on the water. And then, the story continues from there. And then we're saying that, it's very aesthetic, very beautiful, as alluded to by the reaction of people that have seen it. It's resilient, it's vibrant, it's tough. Just many positive attributes to this plant versus the negative attributes that have been associated with it in the past. Now, are there other opportunities that we see in this particular area in what we're doing? Most of what we have made from water hyacinth to date has been, home accents. So we're talking about, some small furniture pieces. We also make kitchen and dining tableware. We make personal accessories, and some of these things are reflected in the picture. You have the lamp, you have the jewelry box, you have the key holders, the tissue box, the napkin rings, and we combine different forms. So if you look at our napkin rings that are below there, the things that have the four pieces there, the frame that we use to create the napkin rings is actually our bamboo. And the most prevalent use of bamboo in Nigeria today is for scaffolding. So you're building a new house, you're putting on your deck or whatever. You use bamboo to support some of the pillars, or you use bamboo as supporting pillars. So we're saying that there are more valuable uses to the use of bamboo here, and it can be more aesthetic. And that's why we're taking different forms and combining that with water hyacinth. We essentially preach the local content story here in Nigeria. Now, you might ask, okay, so how do you go about doing this transformation? And I'll just say it boils down to three steps. You clear the water hyacinth from the waterways, you dry it, and then you weave it. Now, it might not be as simple as 1, 2, 3, but those are essentially the steps. So we harvest, clear it from the waterways, have people clear it from the waterways. We detach the stolons from the leaves and the thick root system, and then we go ahead, dry it, sun dry it in most cases. Although there are opportunities to look at how you can use technologies to dry the weed, especially if it is during the rainy season. You'll probably need something to facilitate the drying. So that's an opportunity which we'll talk about later. But we dry it and then we start weaving the water hyacinth into ropes. So we have different types of patterns that we weave the water hyacinth into depending on what the end product is. Now, are there opportunities? There certainly are opportunities in the utilization of water hyacinth. And as I mentioned, I'm just tackling one use of it. You have several use opportunities. For example, it can be used for biogas, which I talked about earlier. In Southeast Asia, it's used for livestock feed. Some places it's used for compost. It also has some medicinal properties. In fact, I just received a document from someone. I just had done some research for NASA and had highlighted that there are over 200 uses to which water hyacinth can be put. So we're just scratching the surface here right now by just tackling the handicrafts aspect. Very, very good pulping properties, so you can actually use the water hyacinth for also making paper, which is something that we are currently exploring. Now, other opportunities as I see it in the handicraft sector have to do with knowledge conversion from, theory to practical. And I think this is really applicable whether to water hyacinth or any other plant fibers that are out there. We propound a lot of theories, but at the end of the day, we really want to convert those theories into practical use and into practical action. Other opportunities that I see, and document them as well. And then the other opportunities that I see have to do with natural dye. We're trying to, build sustainable products or green products, as they're called, eco-friendly products. We don't want to be using chemical dyes. We used to use chemical dyes before, but if you're selling to, a very informed or educated man, they want to know, okay, why, what is giving your product this color? And then you have to have a good explanation as to whether it's a natural dye or it's a chemical dye. Most people prefer natural dyes. And I know that there are a lot of plant extracts here in Nigeria that are suitable for dyeing materials like this or dyeing fibers like this. It's just that we do not have that information readily available that we can use. We actually tried at my organization to do a little bit of research in that area and found some very, very interesting plants that could be used for this. But funnily enough, we didn't have the English names for the plants because you go to the market, you're looking for okorogo or whatever, you're looking for elu, you're looking for this, looking for that. So you have all the local names, but you're not necessarily very familiar with what the English or botanical names are for these particular plants that you have identified. So I think that is another huge opportunity that can be explored and is yet to be tapped into. And then, of course, a repository of data on plant fibers, geographic concentration of these plant fibers, as well as utilization opportunities. There's a dearth of information in Nigeria. So if you're looking for information like this, I think I found maybe 1 or 2 reports on the web that were very useful and specific to Nigeria. And I thought, if it were more comprehensive, my goodness, we could really do amazing things with the information that we have found here in this repository. So, as you go through your program here at OAU in Botany, keep these things in the back of your mind, because you never know. This might become should I say, a business opportunity for you moving forward. Now, my time is running up. I think I've spent close to 20 minutes here, actually 20 minutes. I'm going to round up with this one last slide. And it is a quote from Maya Angelou, this great African American poet. And she had said that, you can only become truly accomplished at something you love. Don't make money your goal. Instead, pursue the things you love doing, and then do them so well that people can't take their eyes off you. And, I say this with all humility. I told you I studied computer science. I did work in the field, so let me tell you that up front. I did work in the field because I did have to ensure that at least I made my parents feel comfortable, that they hadn't wasted their money in sending me to school. So I did work in the area for several years and had tried different things, worked on the business side. And then when I now came back to Nigeria, I decided I want to focus on something related to sustainable development. And that is when I took off my corporate outfits and decided I am now going to be a social entrepreneur. So it has been an interesting journey, not one that I would consider a cakewalk. It hasn't been easy, but the passion has been there. And of course, when you see communities that are just really excited at knowledge transfer and the opportunity to create jobs within their immediate environment, it just becomes a very fulfilling exercise for me. We most recently partnered with FCMB and did some training in Baeko Ikorodu. And it's just amazing. We worked with primary school students as well as adults. And we've been placing orders with them, including an order this month that went out, and just amazing opportunities and exposure for the people of Baeko who participated in this training. And when we see results like that, we get really excited and hope that we can make more of a social and economic impact here in Nigeria. So with that, I'd like to round up and say a very big thank you for listening and giving me the opportunity to present this talk to you today. Wishing you a very successful program here at OAU and also beyond. And of course, if you have any questions in regards to what has been presented today, you can feel free to send me an email, and my email should be projected on the screen shortly. Thank you and have a successful conference.